Welcome back to the series where I show you how to use coding agents like Claude Code to build real-world applications that include everything from user authentication to payment processing. So in this video, I really want to focus on planning and implementing new features. And this seems to be a real pain point for people using coding agents. So much so that workflows like SpecKit, OpenSpec, and the BMAD method were created to try and assist developers with these challenges. Now, SpecKit and OpenSpec are very similar. They focus very much on the implementation side of things. So you give it a high-level description of what you're trying to implement, and these workflows will guide you through the process of planning the changes and creating detailed implementation plans, where the BMAD method is a bit more involved. Yes, it can assist with the implementation side of things, but I think the real power of the BMAD method is planning everything before the implementation step. So it gives you all of these different tools and agents to help you brainstorm your product idea. Now the real question is, do you have to use any of these frameworks? And the short answer is no. Depending on your project, these might be overkill. You could end up spending a lot of time planning and discussing your requirements with these agents, and the end result could look exactly the same as when you once prompted the agent. So in this video, I'll show you a very simple workflow that you can implement yourself. But if you would like to learn how to use something like SpecKit in your own projects, then check out my dedicated masterclass, which I'll link to in the description. Right, so at the moment we've got this boilerplate project. We want to replace all of this with our own application. And as a reminder, what we're trying to build is a SaaS app where users can upload images of themselves or their family and friends or even their pets, and we'll use an AI model to create plushified versions of the subjects in those images. And users will have to purchase credits in order to use our application. So what I like to do is to break all of these challenges down into simple components or features. If we try to tell the agent to just implement all of the stuff immediately, we're going to run into a lot of issues and most likely lose control of our application. So instead of telling it to go and build the UI and also build the authentication system and implement the payment processing, we'll break the solution down into its simplest components. Now this is a personal choice, but I like to start with the UI and none of the back-end logic. This means we can easily prototype what the user experience would look like, and only once we're happy with the UI components will we start working on the back-end functionality. So let's say then that building the UI is our very first feature. So back in our project, let's start up Claude Code. And then let's press Shift and Tab to go into planning mode. Alright, so let's use the AI to plan out these changes. Hey, please create a detailed implementation plan for the following. At the moment, we have a boilerplate project, but what we actually want to do is replace it with an actual SaaS application that allows users to upload images of themselves, their friends, their family, or even their pets. This app will then use an AI model to convert the subjects in those images to plushies. This means that our app needs to have a beautiful landing page where it shows the user the end result, so we could show a before and after image and some SEO optimized text to promote the product. Users should also be able to sign into the application, and from the dashboard they should be able to generate images. These images will be stored to their gallery. This app should also have public-facing documentation on using the application along with all the legal documents like the privacy pages, etc. Now, at this stage, I do not want to focus on the back-end logic. We're only focusing on the UI components and nothing else. This will give us a feel for the user experience before moving on to adding the actual back-end logic. Please remember to ask any clarifying questions during this process. Alright, so I think that's good enough. Let's actually send this. So I'll actually scroll up, so if you wanted to pause the video and have a look at this prompt, you're more than welcome to do so. It's had a look at our requirements, and it's asking us clarifying questions, and even providing possible solutions. So it's saying, what design style and tone should the landing page convey? Playful and fun, modern and clean, warm and family friendly. Let's go with option 1. What features should the image gallery have? I'll just go with option 1. Which legal and documentation pages are needed? I'll just go with option 3. Should the landing page include pricing and plan information? Now, this is a really good question. In my requirements, I forgot to ask Claude Code to create a separate page for pricing. So I'm going to go to option 3 and say, create a dedicated pricing page with 3 different packages. So a basic package, a pro package, and an elite package. How this app will work is that users will purchase credits. So maybe the basic package could give the user 30 credits, the pro package will give them 100 credits, and the elite page will give them 200 credits. And the pricing for these different packages are $9 for the basic package, $19 for the pro package, and $29 for the elite package. And then let's send this. Alright, so then we can just submit all of these answers. Now, what's really cool is if you realize that you actually forgot something else, you can go ahead and send that message to Claude Code in the meantime. So I'll just add something like, alright, I forgot to mention that because we currently have a boilerplate project, I need you to remove any pages and components in this boilerplate project that's not a part of our actual app. And also, I forgot to mention that since we're not using real data, you can simply simulate a scenario where the user is currently signed in, and you can just use mock data. Okay, cool. So Claude just finished, and let's have a look at this implementation plan. And I will definitely recommend going through this plan in detail, and then ask Claude Code to make any changes to the implementation plan. So for phase 1, it's going to remove all of the boilerplate stuff, which is great. Right, so for phase 2, it's going to update the project metadata and the styling. For phase 3, it's going to create the landing page. For phase 4, it's going to create the pricing page, etc. Alright, so I just went through the implementation plan, and I'm happy to proceed. Now at this point, we could simply say, yes, go and implement this, but I would advise against that. So instead, let's say no. If we type / and context, we can see our current token usage. So let's just scroll up. And here we can see that we've almost used 50% of this context window. Now this is critical, irrespective of what coding agent you use. Each and every agent will have some sort of context window limit. For Claude Code, that's 200,000 tokens. But you really don't want to get anywhere close to this limit. I would argue that after about 60%, the quality of the output starts to degrade. So the goal is really to keep this context window as lean as possible. And that means implementing one small change and then starting a new conversation. But of course, at this point, we can't start a new conversation. We're going to lose our implementation plan. One alternative is that you could try to compact or summarize the conversation, but again, we're going to lose a lot of this important context. And at a very high level, this is a problem that SpecKit and BMAD tries to solve. Those frameworks take all of the work that was done up to now and then stores that information in separate files in our project. So it could take our initial requirements along with some other important information that was discussed in the conversation and then store that in a requirements file. It will also then store that massive implementation plan in its own file as well. And those implementation plans are then split up into phases. And each phase contains an actionable list of tasks that need to be completed. This means as we're completing tasks, we can mark them as complete in the implementation plan. This means we can ask Claude Code to go and implement phase 1 only. And then once phase 1 is complete, we can start a new conversation to clear up the context window and then ask Claude Code to move on to phase 2. Alright, so without using SpecKit or BMAD, how do we implement this ourselves? Well, it's really easy. We already have our implementation plan. So what we can do next is create a new folder. And we can call this specs. So this little folder over here. Now, I do want to mention that at the moment, we're still in the main branch, which means if we had to push any of these changes, it will affect our production environment. So a safer convention is actually to create a new branch. So maybe something like create UI, and then build and test your changes in this branch before merging the changes with our production branch. But because this project is still very much in development, I'll just push directly to the main branch. Alright, so now that we have our specs folder, what we can do is change over to change mode, and we can say, please create a subfolder in the specs folder for this specific feature. within that folder, create two files, requirements.md and implementationplan.md. The requirements file should contain our initial requirements with any other functional and non-functional requirements, as well as acceptance criteria. For the implementation plan, I need you to create a detailed implementation plan that is split into separate phases. Each phase should contain an actionable list of tasks with checkboxes so that we can track our progress. At this stage, do not include any unit or end-to-end testing. Right, again, you're welcome to pause the screen if you want to read all of this, but I'm just going to say go. Alright, so our agent created this subfolder called Plushify UI, and within that folder we have an implementation plan and this requirements document. Let's actually have a brief look at these. Right, in requirements we get this project overview, and the scope is correct. We're only focusing on UI and UX, and we've got our initial requirements, etc. So this is really useful. It's a great way to remind the agent of what we're trying to achieve during this implementation. Let's also have a look at our implementation plan then. And yes, we've got our implementation plan along with these tasks that have these little checkboxes. And we'll actually get the agent to mark these as complete as it's making changes. Of course, we've got phase 2 and whatever else. I mean, just look at how detailed this file is. And by the way, if we had to have a look at our context window in Claude Code, we're already sitting at 56%. So if we try to implement all of this as part of a single execution, we would definitely be in very big trouble. Now, before we move on to implementing this feature, I do want to show you one really cool tip. The next time you implement a new feature, you don't have to give all of those instructions on creating that subfolder and the implementation plan. I've already created a command for you. So in the Claude folder under commands, I created this create feature command. And this is the same as the command that we provided earlier. It's just that the next time you plan a change, all you have to do is enter / and select create feature. Either way, I'm going to clear the chat, and now we should have a clean context window. And this reminds me, our MCP tools are taking up a lot of space. So by default, I've included a few MCP servers in this project. And you don't have to use these, by the way. We have Context 7, we've got Playwright, and we've got shadcn. So to free up some space, I'm actually going to remove Context 7 and Playwright. We can always add those back if we need them in a future video. But for now, let's actually clear the chat again. Let's go to Context. And cool, we greatly reduced the MCP tool usage. So all we have to do now is grab our feature folder and add it into the chat. Then we can say, hey, please go ahead and implement phase 1 of the implementation plan. Once you're done, mark the tasks as complete in the implementation plan. Alright, cool, it's been a minute, and Claude Code just implemented phase 1 of these changes. And if we go to our implementation plan, Claude also marked all of these tasks as completed. And of course, now we can move on to phase 2. So what we can do maybe is just do a bit of a context check. We've only used about 55%, so I think we can risk it and say, hey, please continue with phase 2 of the implementation plan. Again, remember to mark the task as complete once you're done. Honestly, I would just start a new conversation for each new phase. But in this instance, phase 1 and phase 2 are just so small, we'll just do it in a single conversation. Right, cool. So Claude is done, and we can see it marked phase 2 as complete as well. So I am going to clear the context at this stage. So let's actually just say clear. And since we've completed quite a lot of work so far, I'm going to go to source control, and let's create a commit for all of these changes. Now we can give it a name ourselves, or even easier is we can run the command checkpoint. This is a command that I've created for you, and all it does is it looks at all of these untracked changes and creates a detailed comment for this commit. And cool, we now have a snapshot of all of the changes that we made up until now. So let's clear this chat. Let's grab our feature folder and simply say, go ahead and implement phase 3 and phase 4. Mark the tasks as complete once you're done. And let's send this. So this is just a very simple workflow. This requirements file is really useful for giving the agent all the context it needs about the feature that we're trying to implement. And of course, it will then reference the implementation plan to track our progress and then implement these incomplete changes. In the interest of time, I'm going to let Claude Code run through all of these phases by basically implementing one phase at a time, clearing the conversation, and then continuing on to the next phase. Alright, cool. So we've just gone through all of these phases. So if I show you this version control history, you'll notice I created commits each and every time I completed a conversation. So once we've implemented all of the changes, there is one more thing I like to do. I'm going to grab our feature folder and then get Claude to review this implementation. So let's say, hey there, we've just implemented all of the phases for this feature. Now, what I want you to do is to review the implementation, so the actual coded solution, and see if we missed anything. Please try to identify any gaps or any issues related to the implementation not following Next.js and React best practices. Use your web search tool to look up any up-to-date documentation related to any libraries or features used in our application. And cool, let's send this. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because we created new conversations each time we implemented a new phase. There's always a slight chance that Claude missed important context from the previous phase. So there could be functions or components that have been duplicated because the agent had no idea that function was already created as part of a previous phase. So by running an agent to review the solution holistically, we can identify any of those types of issues. In fact, let's add that. So I'm just going to stop this and let's also say, so how this worked was we had different developers working on different phases of the solution. So it's possible that there might be code duplication or duplicate functions or components. So as part of your review, try to see if there were any duplicate files or functions created or duplicate components as part of this implementation. Okay, let's send this as well. Another good use case of this is once we start implementing the backend functionality that deals with creating APIs and database connections, we can ask the review agent to try and find any security related issues. And you'll be really surprised to see how useful this review step can be. Alright, so the overall code quality is good. So here's an interesting thing. We can ask the agent to implement these fixes for us. Now, of course, if this is a huge change, we could run into context limit issues again. So what we can do is simply say, hey, create an implementation plan for these fixes. And the agent will create the implementation plan within his feature folder. Now, we don't have to do that. I think these changes are really simple. So I'll just say, thank you for the review. Please go ahead and implement all of these suggestions. And now we're getting a score of A+. Alright, so I'm actually just going to create a checkpoint again. And this should also be a good time to review our actual app. So let's start the dev server. And there we go. So we've got our app along with this logo that the agent created itself. And we've got all of this marketing copy and placeholders for our plushie images. So we've got all of this marketing stuff, this how it works section, along with other images created by other users. And we also have this review section and another call to action. And finally, our footer. We also have access to light and dark modes, which look really cool. We have our user button on the top right. We can also see the amount of credits that we have left. And if we click on credits, we can see these different packages. So we can also view our dashboard, where we can see our credits. And it seems we can view our previous creations down here. We have this button to generate a new plushie. So we can upload an image. I'll just select this thumbnail. And it's asking us what we're trying to plushify, a person, a pet, or other. And by generating this, we'll burn 1 credit. Let's see what happens when we click on generate. Now, obviously at this point, we haven't actually implemented any of the backend logic. We're simply looking at the user experience at this point. So after we've generated the image, we'll see this before and after snapshot. And this is really cool. Then we have the option to download this image, we can share it, or generate another. And of course, we can go to the gallery, where we can view all of our previous generations. So far, this is looking really cool. Let's also have a look at this doc section. So here we can search for documentation. We have a getting started guide. And the documentation looks really cool as well. And we should have legal documents as well, which we do. So we've got a privacy policy, which actually gives an error. Then let's have a look at terms of service. This doesn't work either. The cookie policy seems to work. And if we go to refund, this one doesn't work either. All right, so what we can do is actually click on this button. Let's copy all of this. And let's say, hey, when I try to access some of the legal pages, I get this error message. Please resolve this error for all pages on this app. So what I also want to do is actually create a sample before and after image for the homepage. So on pexels.com, I actually found this image. So I'm just going to download a very small version of this. Then in AI Studio, let's upload this image and let's say, please change the people in this image to adorable plushie versions of themselves. Let's run this. All right, this is not bad. Let's try one more. Make them even more plushified. Well, I'll just see what we get back from this. But for now, I'm also just going to download this version. Right, and this is cool as well. Let's download this version. So at the moment, these images are massive. They're nearly 2 meg each. So I'll just add this to Photopea or Photopia or whatever it's called. Let's resize this image to about 640 width. Then let's say OK. And under File, let's export this. And I'll just export it as PNG. Let's save this. Then let's copy these 2 images. And back in our project, let's add these to the public folder. I'll just create a subfolder called example. And let's add those 2 images. Okay, we already have our after photo. So let's change this one to before. All right, by the way, our agent completed those fixes. So in our app, let's actually see if those pages are working now. So we can go to the privacy page, and this is indeed now working. Let's go to terms of service, and this is all working as well. The cookie policy page is working, as well as the refund page. So let's ask the agent to make another change for us. I'm just going to say that in the public example folder, I added 2 images, a before and after image. Let's add this to the home page to show users what this app actually does. All right, let's send this. And cool, so now we have this section, and the images are a little bit low resolution. That's not Claude's fault. I think what I'll do is actually just go back and use a high resolution image. And I'm also going to remove this public gallery, as this app won't have a public gallery. Right, so we're nearly done with building our UI. I noticed that there was no consistency between the width between these different pages. So all I did is I chose one of the pages that I actually liked. I think it was the pricing page. And I told the agent to apply the same max width to all pages in this application. Then there were also a few issues with the documents page. And again, I just chose a page that I liked. And I asked the agent to apply the same styling to all the other pages. I actually don't like this pink theme that we have at the moment. So a really simple way to change the theme is to go to tweakcn.com, then let's click on Try Now, and from here we can choose between different themes. So we can just go through all of these, and let's say for this app, I actually like this theme, Amber Minimal. We can also use this tool to customize things like the fonts, and maybe we want to change things like the roundness of these corners. So once I'm happy, I can click on Code, and we can simply copy all of this CSS. Claude Code is still applying some of the layout changes to some of these legal pages, so we'll just let it cook. But what we can do is simply go to the app folder. Let's open globals.css. Then I'm just going to close this, and this. Then we can replace dark, root, and inline with the code that we just copied. Now when we save this file, our site looks a lot different. We've got this awesome yellow font, and actually this little icon is starting to grow on me. But if you really don't like this logo, you can simply ask Claude Code to create something else, or replace it with a Lucid React icon. The boilerplate project already gives Claude Code access to all of these different icons, so you can just go through this list, or maybe search for something, and then ask Claude Code to use this Lucid React icon. But for now, I think I'll stick with this logo. I might change it in one of the future videos. Another really cool website is Austernity. This gives you highly customized shadcn components. Well, let's just go to any of these. I mean, just look at this cool effect. So really, if you want to add something like this to your project, you can either copy the code example, or you can click on this copy prompt button and select something like lovable. And you can then paste this prompt into Claude Code. I'm going to create another checkpoint. So at this stage, there shouldn't be any untracked changes. Now I'm going to clear the chat again, and now we'll use Claude Code to check that there are absolutely no build errors before we deploy to Vercel. So I'll say, please run lint, type check, and npm build. Resolve any issues. I'm actually going to copy all of this, then let's run this. And since I'm planning to rerun that same command quite a few times, I'm going to go to the Claude folder, commands, and let's create our very first custom command. Let's call this check build.md. Then let's add 3 dashes with description, and let's say run lint, type check, and build. Then let's simply paste in that command. Now we can easily reuse it going forward. Alright, so apparently all checks have passed. I'm just going to create one commit for this to say added new command for checking builds. Let's commit this. And now let's sync this. If you followed the previous video, then we already have GitHub set up. So we just pushed all of those new changes to GitHub, and in Vercel, we can see that this build is now running. Since we've set up this deployment pipeline, our changes are automatically pushed to production as soon as it's sent to GitHub. Our build is complete. Let's go to our website. And there we go. All of our changes are now in production. This is how I use Claude Code to implement features in my applications without needing frameworks like SpecKit or BMAD. In the next video, we'll start implementing the back-end functionality. If you've got any questions related to this series, then please ask them in the comments below. Remember to subscribe to my channel to be notified as soon as I publish a new Claude Code video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.